Hello my friends, how are you doing? I hope you're doing very well wherever you are, whatever time of day or night is for you. I really hope you're having a wonderful time, a blessed, relaxed time, and it's the perfect occasion to talk to each other. You're listening to Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and I'm here to tell you about health, about how we can be healthier, longer, and function better. That's important because it really matters to you. It's a very important subject for you and for your well-being and the well-being of everybody around you. So I want you to listen carefully. I want you to keep on listening, and not only that, I would love to see you following me up with whatever is your social media of your choice. You can go to Twitter, you can go to Facebook, you can go to Instagram, you can go to our website, and we love to hear from you. And these conversations are really about you. I'm trying to give you information that I think is very important for you. That's going to be hopefully part of your everyday reflection, of your everyday planning, because it's very important for us to know what we are going to do today, what routes we're going to take, what paths we're going to follow in order to do well in every aspect. We want to do well with our job, we want to do well with our life, we want to be in good shape with our relationships and friends and family, but we also want to be healthy and we want to be functional. And it's so very little the attention do we pay to our own body that I really feel many times appalled of the problems that I'm seeing and how they're becoming more and more important, and how easy it would be to just reverse that trend, to just be healthier, to just function better, be happier. But it's really difficult to achieve it many times, and most of the time is because of lack of information or wrong information. That's why it's very important for us to sit together, to talk together, and I want you to ask questions. I want you to send me your comments because I love to answer those questions. They give me a very good idea of what you're thinking, what worries you, and I want to go in that direction. Programs like this, we have over 100 programs already recorded, and all of them are available to you. All you have to do is go to Spotify and search Truth Be Told Radio Network. And there you will find all these programs. You're going to find all these conversations, and you might listen to them driving to work or Saturday evening or any day during the week when you have not much to do. I think this is going to be a lot better and a lot more profitable than just watching a TV show, because it's going to be, again, I want to emphasize that we're going to be talking about you. That's why I want you to listen. And one of the things that worry me a lot is being a doctor is looking at people many times with a lot of difficult problems. What do I call a really difficult problem? What about cancer? What about a heart attack? What about a stroke? Those are really, really tough situations. What about dropping dead on the field when you're training to be your best? And that happens every day. It happens every day in America, and it happens every day because, number one, we know very little about ourselves, and number two, we just take our bodies for granted, and we can do with them whatever we want. That's as if I give you a brand new, beautiful car, and then you decide, oh, I want to go to the beach and go in the sand, or do trail bracing around, and go to this place or to the other, and go to the forest. And no, your car might not be built for that. However, we have a body that was made in perfection, that can be trained to do what you want. Nevertheless, it needs care and attention. And if you're going to use your body to climb a mountain, you can do it if you train it properly. If you get the best tools, if you get the training, if you get the know-how. But you cannot just go out and start climbing and say, oh, I can do this, or I'm going to get on the top of a tree or anything like that, because you might drop and kill yourself. It needs training. And the same is for everything with your body. You need to train it, you need to take care of it, you need to love it in order to see that it's working well. Well, when I talk about this, what worries me is that in most of the cases, when I see deadly diseases, difficult diseases, I say, I wish I would have seen you 15 years ago. I wish I would have known you when you were a kid. I wish I could have changed some of the ways, because you didn't have to get to this point. Many times, I see people that look very sick, that are in terrible condition, and you say, let's start making changes. And I know people that have told me, doctor, I think it's too late for me. And I say, it's never too late to change. Never too late to start a new life. And sure enough, they start recovering, they recover their appetites, they start eating healthier, and they learn that eating well can be just as pleasurable as eating junk. But now they're feeding their body, they're not intoxicating their bodies, and they get a lot out of their bodies. You get performance. It's like if I give you a high performance car and you put very cheap fuel, well, you're not going to get what you wanted to get from that car, simply because you do not have the quality of fuel, the quality of lubricant, the quality of care that high performance car needed. So I want you to think of all of those things. They're very simple. And I'm not talking just out of my head, not just because I want to say I want to talk about this or the other. No, because you can look at the numbers. We're getting more and more people dying younger of diseases that used to be a problem when you are 80, 90. Now we see them at 40 or 50. When you're at your prime, when you're raising your kids, when you're sending your children to university, then is when you're going to die? When they need all the support they can get from every single angle? You're going to die because you neglected your body in the first place? I accept if you're in a thunderstorm and you get one of these, you get struck by anything that is really unavoidable, a true act of God. Well, I can understand that. But what if I die because I paid for the toxics I put in my body? I pay for my tobacco, I pay for my sugar, I paid for all the disorderly eating, for all the junk food I put in my body. I shouldn't die because of that. And it's because either I didn't have good information, or because I was misled to believe things that are completely untrue. That's why it's good to listen to someone and discuss, and most importantly, be able to ask the questions, be able to discuss. I'm not telling you that what I'm telling you is the absolute truth, but we can have a conversation. And I'm sure I can convince you to do a lot of things that in the end are going to be nice, pleasurable, and effective. So that's what we're talking about. And nothing worries me most, because it's an underlying process for disease anywhere, any age, in any possible situation than chronic inflammation. What is chronic inflammation? Well, we all have it. I'm not going to tell you exactly how it goes. It is a very complex biochemical thing within our bodies that was primarily designed to protect us from diseases. But we have done so many things in our environment and diet that we have created false alarms. We have given our body reasons to believe that it has to set in motion inflammation. And no, we were not attacked, we were not infected, we didn't have an accident, we didn't have a real problem. It's just that many of the things that we do are pro-inflammatory. They trigger inflammation. And this happens day in, day out, and this is going to take us by the hand to a chronic condition of inflammatory disease. Just chronic. We are inflamed day in, day out, all the time. And a lot of things are going to happen because of that chronic inflammation, and some of them we are not going to like them. So we want that inflammation to stop. If you feel stiffness in your hands when you want to do something, if you feel stiffness in your joints when you get up and start moving or doing anything, if you're bloated, if you're constipated, if you have any stomach ache, if you have any joint pain, any of these conditions are telling you you are inflamed. If you have swelling of your legs, all these things tell you a story because our bodies talk to us. And a friend of mine always said, as you age, your body gets more talkative. The problem is that we're getting that talkative body earlier and earlier. So if you start feeling any of these conditions, be aware that you might have a chronic inflammatory condition that's going to take you by the hand to a disease you do not want in your life. You do not want to spend all that money, you don't want to spend all that time at doctor's offices, you don't want to spend all that time at laboratory testing, and you don't want to spend all that money. So we're here to prevent all that from happening. We don't want inflammation in our life. Let's talk about how it comes along and how we can fight it off, keep it out completely of our lives. My friends, I am Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and I'm here talking about health and disease, and this time we're talking about a very common problem that's costing a lot of lives, that's costing a lot of money, that's costing a lot of suffering, but most importantly, that we can manage or simply avoid it, go around it, which is chronic inflammation. We were saying that inflammation manifests itself by different ways. You not only have to have swelling. Swelling is one of these signs of inflammation, but many times you don't see it anywhere. You don't see what it is. You cannot identify it. You just suffer from it. And it's so little, this suffering, and it comes in so slowly that we don't even identify it. We don't even think, I think I'm getting a problem. And in many cases, I have talked to people, when I see patients and I say, didn't you notice this, didn't you feel that? And they say, yes, doctor, but I thought I was getting old. Watch that. Be very careful with that phrase, because even your doctor is going to use it. We very simplistic explain disease with aging. I've seen it with people, I've seen it with doctors that say, oh, you're fine. You have this and that, but it's because of your age. Watch it. Nobody has to be sick just because he's getting older. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. That's why I don't want you to go anywhere. I just want you to follow me. I just want to listen to I want you to listen to this program. And I want you to follow me on the social media of your choice, on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. And I want you to share this information to people you love. Tell them, go to Spotify and search Truth Be Told Radio Network. You might like what you're going to listen to. Because it's very important for people to listen to all this information, because that's the only way we have to go around the problems. I have this problem here. I have a storm on my radar screen, but here is clear. Why don't we just go around this storm and sail, always safe, always peaceful? Why do we have to weather this storm when we have the opportunity to go around it? What do we need? We need a radar screen. We need something that tells us we are heading in that direction. So if I tell you, well, we're on a boat, we're having a nice cruising, and then all of a sudden you see some rain, clouds, wind. Well, you better watch straight forward, because you might have a thunderstorm just ahead of you. And then you see the lightning, and you see all these things, and you say, we shouldn't go that way. So, if you're developing all these symptoms, and somebody tells you it's because you're getting older, no, not necessarily. Getting old doesn't mean you're going to get sick. Getting old doesn't mean you're going to get cancer, or you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke. No, getting older means a lot of things are going to go down in capacity, in efficiency, that we know, but we should be healthy and performing. I mean, look at a lot of people in every way of life, politicians and artists and actors and you name it, who are what we could say very old, and they do very well and perform very well and have healthy lives. I've seen Queen Elizabeth in her 90s riding on a horse. I mean, forget it, I couldn't even get on a horse, much less ride on it. Of course she's trained, but at 90 something, it's still an achievement. That means that person is healthy, has continued to keep her health. She's going to need help, but she can continue to perform. That's what I want to talk about. We want to make sure that we are healthy and functional. Now, yes, you have those symptoms. We have talked about that. You have some aches, you have some pains, you have some swelling, you have stiffness of the joints, you have stiffness of a little bit of back pain, you have a little bit of this and the other. That's telling me things are not going in the right direction. I have to do something. So be careful and watch it. I don't know if you have heard, in medicine it's very common. It's a very common saying, and I don't know if you have ever heard of it, that you are just as old as your blood vessels, just as old as your arteries or your veins. If you're 50 years old and your blood vessels are like 40s, you are 40 something, not 50. But if you're 50 years old and your blood vessels have been damaged by tobacco or junk food or anything like that, and they're swollen and they're in bad shape, and they look like the blood vessels of a 70-year-old, you are 70 years old, no matter when you were born. Get it right. You are just as old or as young as your vascular tree is. Why? Because depending on the health of your vascular system depends the health of your heart, of your lungs, of your brain, of your kidneys, of your liver. Do I need to say more? If you have a healthy vascular system, chances are that you're in very good shape. I don't care when you were born. You have no high blood pressure, you do not have cancer, you have a good immune system, you don't have anything like that. Why? Because a healthy vascular system means one thing: blood is flowing. And life is in the blood. That you know. So if I damage my vascular system by eating sugars or bad fats or smoking or drinking or eating whenever or having bad sleep, etc., I am getting my vascular tree older than the years I have lived. And it's simple. If you have a car and treat it as a junk, you're going to have a junk very fast, no matter if it's 2 years old. And we have seen cars that are 50 years old that perform as new because they were taken care of. And the other one, nobody took care of it. Nobody checked if it overheated, and nobody checked care to change the oil. Nobody cared to buy good fuel. Nobody cared for anything. So it's junk. The same happens to our body. So we have to understand that this is very important to be bypassed. Now, there are what we call the aging clock. In other words, let's put it in different wording. I was born so many years ago. That doesn't mean I'm that old. No, I was born so many years ago. How healthy is my body? How healthy is my vascular system? Okay, then now I know that even though I might be 70 years old, my vascular system is 57 or 92. Everything can happen, depending on what you have done with your life. And now we have ways to measure from very early stages of life what's happening with chronic inflammation. We have inflammatory markers that can tell me that things are going in X or Y direction. They're telling me you're doing good things for your vascular tree, or they can tell me, watch it, you are heading to the storm. And then I say, okay, take the helm and go in a different direction. Why? Because it's within my hand. That's why I have this urgency, this dire need to tell you. Because I know that you, and nobody else but you, can make a difference. And when you come to see me at BioCare, you're going to tell me, doctor, I want to look younger. I'm already younger than my biological age, but I want to look better. What about some stem cells for my face? Or what about I don't know, whatever you want to do, just look beautiful. A facial or something. Change of diet, I want to learn better cooking, etc. You continue to work for yourself, but you don't come here to tell me, doctor, I'm dying. What can I do for you? That, believe me, that I don't like. I love to see people that come here and say, doctor, I'm in good shape, I'm healthy, I want to do this, I want to do the other. I have people, for example, I have a beautiful old lady that brought her grandchildren. She brought 2 grandchildren in their 20s because she wanted them to learn. She says, I'm going to take treatment. She doesn't have any deadly disease. She just likes to take care of herself. And she wanted to transfer the information, the feeling, the everything to her children, because she says, I want you to get to my age as in good shape as I am. Couldn't be more beautiful than that. But first we have to learn. Follow me, be with me, and we'll continue talking. Hello, my friends. Happy to be with you. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and we've been talking about a very important phenomenon that is critical to our well-being. It is actually a mechanism of defense that can be triggered whenever your body feels something that threatens your well-being, your immunity, your integrity. And sometimes these systems misinterpret what's happening, and the body believes that it's being under pressure, under something that's very aggressive, and responds with inflammation. And we do so many things we do every day, every time of the day, that can trigger inflammation. That inflammation becomes a way of life, becomes a chronic condition. So you have heard many times when we talk about many diseases that they are chronic inflammatory conditions. That means the origin of the disease, the culprit, is chronic inflammation. And as we live, regardless of how long, regardless of anything, this chronic inflammation starts to act on different organs. And it's going to damage the quality of certain functions, it's going to damage the quality of certain organs, and in the long term, they're going to produce a lot of diseases that we do not want to talk about. Because we don't want to talk about cancer, we don't want to talk about diabetes, we don't want to talk about high blood pressure, we don't want to talk about heart attacks or strokes, we do not want to talk about Alzheimer's. And all of them have an inflammatory foundation. Why? Because chronic inflammation affects blood vessels, first and foremost. And anything that affects the distribution of blood in the body is going to affect every single function, is going to affect every single organ. Why? Because life is in the blood. Anything that impairs the free flow of blood is going to produce symptoms, problems, and disease. And researchers have begun to identify that we can actually detect these problems very early in life. How early? Well, there's a very important study done on people around their 20 years old. And this is a study that I love because I think it has been done very thorough. Because what they did is they checked over 100,000 individuals. These 100,000 individuals were followed up for 37 years. Get it? You see people in their 20s, you check them out, and you follow them for 37 years, and then you say, well, what happened to these individuals? And how were they when they were 20? What they found is that some of them, and they used a very simple marker, let me tell you, very simple, very inexpensive, which is the erythrocyte, red blood cell. That's what an erythrocyte is, the red blood cell sedimentation rate. This is one of the oldest blood tests that we had available from a lab in the medical world. I don't even know how many years it's been around. Nevertheless, they just checked this one. When you put the blood in a test tube and let it sit for a given period of time, the red blood cells tend to go to the bottom. Why? Because they are suspended in the fluid, which is this serum. You have the cells floating in that serum and flow through the vascular system. But if the blood stops, the red blood cells are going to sediment. They're going to go to the bottom. And they're going to go to the bottom at certain speed or certain rate. The faster they drop, the more likely that you have inflammatory activity in your body. It's very inexpensive because you don't need any fancy thing. You just take a blood sample, put it on a tube, let it sit for 1 hour, so we understand each other. We all read it after 1 hour, and we say it dropped 10 millimeters or it dropped 5. So they said, okay, if it drops 10 millimeters or less, it's very light, very, very low sedimentation. But if it goes beyond certain point, which could be more than 15 millimeters, then you say this is high. So less than 10, you're good. 10 to 15, you're borderline, and more than 15, we're going to watch. And they did it again, over 100,000 individuals in their 20s. What happened 37 years later? 37 years later, what they found is that 4,800 something were dead. Remember, you're talking about people in their 20s, so you're talking about people that were between 57, 60 years old when they die. They die young, you see. So when they look at these people that died young, then they start to see, okay, what did they die of? What happened with them? And what they found is that people that had the fastest or the most important sedimentation rate, in other words, an active inflammatory marker, which was high, those people, the people that died in that range, mostly died of cancer or vascular disease. Now let me tell you something. People that died had died because of cancer. They checked for cancer, for vascular disease, which were people that basically were in the higher sedimentation rate. In other words, you could tell from their 20s that they had a higher than normal inflammatory activity. So these people with higher than normal inflammatory activity, most of those people that died in that range were because of cancer or vascular disease. Part of the groups died because, of course, of other reasons. Some of them of drug abuse, alcoholism, and very important, a lot of people died from suicide or car accidents. Younger people tend to love dying because of a car accident. So we have to rethink what we're doing about that. Actually, about 1,000 of those deaths, remember we had 4,800 people that died. Out of those we had about 1,200 who died of cancer or vascular disease, but 1,500 that died of suicide and car accidents. So car accidents are very significant in younger age deaths. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful because most deaths, and this just goes along with the other statistics, much of our younger people die because of car accidents and cancer. But now we know that if we check for inflammatory markers early in life, let's say when you're between 15 and 20, we can probably identify the higher inflammatory marker and avoid that death in the future, because we're going to start an immediate anti-inflammatory strategy for that particular life. So no junk food, no sugar, no nothing like that. And let me take this point to say something very important. The biggest offender, by far, in producing chronic inflammation is sugar, refined sugar. Tooth decay and inflammatory processes are due to high intake of sugar. So as soon as we finish, go to your pantry and remove what your children shouldn't be eating. Take those cookies out and put oranges. Take those sweets out and put some bananas. Take that thing that has sugar and put nuts. With a nut cracker, I mean raw nuts. So they can crack the nuts and eat them and have fun. So we have to start making changes right now. What else can reduce inflammatory markers? And you can begin today. Physical activity. Physical activity, by definition, is anti-inflammatory. You want healthy children, get them out. Kick them out of the house. Don't let them play with their screens. You are doing a big disservice to these people because you're letting them be sedentary. You're training them to be sedentary, and they're going to suffer. And they're going to die younger. And don't forget that many researchers are telling us that we might be the first generation who's going to go to their children's funeral, because people are dying younger and younger. So get them out. Get them to play, to work, to do physical things. And that is going to be very helpful. Take all the sugar out of their reach, and you're going to start in a very good way. You didn't spend any money. You didn't spend anything. You didn't have to do anything, buy anything. Just change the foods they eat, change their habits. They'll be very grateful one day. My friends, my dear friends, I have taken this opportunity to talk to you about a very important problem that we're just beginning to unveil, that we're just beginning to show, that unfortunately, we are already suffering the consequences of this. We've been talking about chronic inflammation. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and I'm talking about chronic inflammation because it worries me on how chronic inflammation is robbing us our quality of life. we all are suffering every day from depression, from lack of strength, from stressful life, from a lot of things, from aches, pains, bloatedness, inflammatory conditions, swelling, pain, stiffness of the joints. And all of this is because of the way we live. Because if you ask your grandmother, she's going to tell you that, yes, I remember that old people had this problem. I myself remember when the problems that I have just mentioned were my grandmother. And she was close to 90 years old. And I remember complaining about the things that I'm telling you. Stiffness of the joints and problems with gait, things like that. But I don't remember my father when he was 50 or 60 or 70. I remember distinctly my father at 80 years old driving around and doing a lot of things. But now we're looking at people younger and younger falling prey to chronic inflammation. Why? Because we have it already on us and we don't do anything about it. That's why I want you to follow me. That's why I want you to listen to me. I want you to invest just a few minutes of your time trying to learn what can I do with my body so I never have to go to a hospital. So I don't have to go, particularly I don't want to go very early. When I'm 50, when I'm 60, when I'm 70, I'm going to be very busy. I'm going to be finishing raising my children. I'm going to be making financial plans. I'm planning retirement. I'm traveling. I'm doing things I plan and I love to do. I don't want to go to a doctor's visit. I don't want to have a heart attack. I don't want to have a stroke. I don't want to die. I don't want to have a cancer and go for chemotherapy and blah, blah, blah. I want to be healthy. What can I do? Well, what I can do is, I'm telling you, is you have to be aware of chronic inflammation. And you have to check it out. And if you want to know more about it, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Drop me a question. It's free. There's nothing behind it. Just ask me a question. Doctor, I'm 45. Is there any way I can find it if I have any chronic inflammation behind? Chances are you have it. You know, check your mouth. Make sure you don't have any cavities. Make sure you don't have any chronic inflammation in your mouth, in your tonsils. Check your bowel. Do I have a regular bowel movement? Am I bloated? Am I constipated? Am I having any problems? So all those things you have to be checking out every morning is what I tell everybody. You have to make a walk around every day with your body, see how well I am. You know what? Now when I go upstairs, I can feel it in my knees. Well, it shouldn't happen because it didn't happen before. That swelling, stiffness in your hands, a little bit of clumsiness. Many times it's telling you that is happening. So let's make sure you fight it off from the beginning. And once again, being young doesn't spare you from the problem. Because some of these studies that I have reviewed, and I can make them available to you anytime, are made with people in their 20s. And there they can tell that some of the changes would reflect later on in life a heart attack or a cancer. So, and we're talking about very inexpensive testing. Protein C-reactive protein, or sedimentation rate of the red blood cells, are very inexpensive. You're talking of very few dollars. But the same way we invest a little bit of money because we want to wash our car or wax it, well, you have to invest a little bit of money with our children. You can ask the questions to your doctor. Next time you take them to a visit, you can say, "Doctor, I'm concerned about chronic inflammation. Can you do some inflammatory markers?" Because the beauty of it is that if you're a young person and you have some positive markers, all you have to do is do more physical activity. Because physical activity diminishes all of the markers, all of the inflammatory markers. So we used to live outdoors. We used to do a lot of things. We used to take care of our gardens. And, I mean, let alone before that when we chopped wood and walk around really long distances. That's what our body was designed to do. Our body doesn't know how to be in a couch looking at WhatsApp. We were not built for that. You can create a time frame to do that, but a time to do the other. And I have said one of the biggest offenders is sugar. So make sure you find sugar is out of your life. I mean, you want a snack? Get a banana. What about an apple? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. We know that for ages. I mean, nobody told you to have a cookie instead. Why? Because it probably has a lot of sugar, it probably has white flour, and it probably has omega-6 oils, which are pro-inflammatory. Pro means they help inflammation to happen. You want the opposite. You want anti-inflammatory oils. What are they? Omega-3s, fish oil, deep ocean fish, swordfish, salmon, halibut, raw nuts. Get nuts and crack them. Sit in the porch, sit with your children and just pass around the nuts and pass around the nut cracker, and you're going to have fun and you're going to have a very healthy snack. Because that's the way people used to live, and that's what we have to do. So I'm talking about very little money for testing. I'm talking about lots of awareness. And I'm talking about very simple measures, like few dietary changes, like physical activity, because you're going to train your whole family. Your whole family is going to be in it to be healthier and avoid disease. And for those of you that already have a condition, if you begin to do these changes, you're going to feel a lot better. Why? Because anti-inflammatory strategies work for everyone. Work for healthy people, work for people that have cancer, work for people that have heart disease. No matter where you are, anti-inflammatory strategies work. There are many works, for example, that prove that cancer patients do better when they do some physical activity. Why? Because it reduces inflammatory markers, and inflammation is one of the main reasons why anti-cancer therapies do not work. So if you can lower inflammation in your body, whatever your doctor is giving you has much better chances to be successful. But if you go to the doctor and pay a lot of money for the doctor, a lot of money for medication, a lot of things, and then you go and eat junk food, you're ruining it all. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. I don't want to do that. I want you to be healthy. I want to be in very good shape. And it doesn't take too much to understand that if I do these things, if I take better care of myself, I'm going to feel better. And you know, everybody tells me, I mean, they undergo some sort of a regime. They start watching what they do, what time they eat. It's very important. We neglect that completely. We eat whenever we can. And we have an excuse. I have heard it so many times when people tell me, "Doctor, I have to eat on the go because I'm very busy." Well, if you're very busy to feed your body, well, you're going to have plenty of time once you're disabled to try to do something you should have done before, but now it's not going to work as effective. So you're wasting your time. You're wasting your opportunity. So what I want you to do is follow me. I want you to go to the social media of your choice and follow me. Just be after all this information, because it can change your life and it can change the life of those around you. And I want you to go to Spotify and search Truth Be Told Radio Network and see all the possibilities, all the programs on cancer, on high blood pressure, on diabetes, on health and disease, on physical activity, on depression, on alcohol consumption, on drugs, on every single issue. And if you don't find what you need, you can ask me a question. You can send me a comment. Believe me, I'm going to bring to this table, I'm going to bring to this discussion those subjects that you want to hear about. So don't hesitate. Join me. Let's make a team.